All right, Louise Taylor. So good to have you here joining us on our podcast today, the Coach Launch Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm excited to be here.
So, guys, welcome to Project Focus, where we dive deep into the transformative journeys in business and mindset with some of the most inspiring leaders of our time. Today, we have a true powerhouse joining us, Louise Taylor, a neuro-strategist and multi-seven-figure entrepreneur. Louise stands out with her groundbreaking Neuro Resonance Method, a unique fusion of brand strategy, neuroscience, and spiritual intelligence, and more. Raised amidst the chaos of being one of seven siblings and overcoming her own challenges, Louise harnesses her rare ability to create income and find clarity in the midst of chaos. Not only has she built an award-winning business, but she's also helped mission-driven founders and executives recalibrate their brands and scale to 7 and 8 figures without succumbing to burnout. How good is that? Known for her prophetic clarity and deep transformational presence, Louise is here to share her journey from surviving to thriving, teaching us how to uncover our unique path to success. Let's dive in and discover how you are helping us transform today. Awesome. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I guess you could say it ain't my first rodeo.
Oh wow, this I can tell, and I've been diving deep into your stuff, and I'm very excited to be sharing the things that you've been doing with my audience. And I know the guys out there, my first kind of thought process when I was reading your stuff was, what is neuro resonance? Talk
Yeah.
to me a little bit about that before we dive in.
Well, neuro resonance is a method that I developed over the years, and it's very holistic, and it incorporates, as you mentioned, spiritual intelligence. So really tapping into your higher self, as well as neuroscience strategies for marketing and sales. So languaging, being able to know your niche and really understand your niche deeply. And it also incorporates just somatic work, which is being able to get your nervous system realigned. And we use a lot of neurobiology to help people get into flow so they don't burn out. Because one of the things that I discovered in all my years of being in business was most high performers, they go like this. They're in this performance cycle, go hard, grit, grit, go, 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 and then burn out, crash. And that's what got me interested in learning about flow science. So I studied flow science with Stephen Kotler. And so, really, neuro resonance is an incorporation of all those things to help people to, number one, feel safe, being really calm when they're on sales calls or when they're in their business, having that deep sense of knowing, tapping into that higher state, which is a process that you can learn, and then speed to market. Because I don't know about you, Matthew, and I'm sure you're a very motivated, successful person, but most high performers like to get there fast, right? And so that can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
And so our process is about helping people get there quickly, because after all these years of consulting, over 3 decades, you learn some stuff, right? And so being able to really diagnose and tap into the core issue that's stopping someone from, say, creating a high ticket offer or selling. And so we do a lot of diagnostics, and then we help customize and create models, flow models, high ticket offers, messaging, and niche definition, so that we can get someone from where they are to their next 7-figure move faster, but staying sane in the process, which is
Staying
the plan.
sane. I like that. Staying sane in the process, because entrepreneurship is a bit.
It is, that's right. And, we're often, highly creative people. One of the processes we use is whole brain, which is what I'm trained in, which was designed by Ned Herman. He was a scientist who was commissioned by General Electric. And I was trained in his model years ago, and I've been using that for years with corporate boards. And I love that model, and that's a piece of the foundation of neuroresonance, because it's so amazing to help people to focus and understand how to shift from creativity to execution, or how to shift from being emotional to being highly focused. and, laser focused.
Before we dive deeper into the whole process, let me
Yeah.
take us a little bit of a step back
Sure.
because I want to give people a bit of a feel about who you are and where you've come from and kind of dive into the journey of why what you do is so important. And let's go back and start back at the beginning, right?
Okay.
Talk about some of your defining moments that profoundly influenced your current approach to entrepreneurship. Now, I know you've got a successful business. You've been helping CEOs, corporate companies build and develop and get their office dialed in, all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. But there was a starting point, right? There was this
Yeah,
place where it all kind of evolved from. Talk to me a little bit about that,
for
where it all
sure.
started.
For sure, Matthew. Well, I guess, when you asked me that question, the first thing that came to mind was when I was 9 months pregnant and we had built our house. The builder had gone broke and we had 18% interest rates. This is way back in the day. Yeah, very high interest rates. And my husband came home and everyone in his company had lost their job suddenly. And I was literally about to be induced the next day with our first child. So,
Wow.
as you can imagine, that was like a roller coaster ride. It was scary. I was anxious. I had postnatal depression, which I'd never heard of before. Nobody even knew what that was back then. Basically, I'm
Wow.
giving away my
Yeah.
age now. But it was really hard, and I was used to being in control. I was successful in my career. I was used to having all my ducks in a row, and then all of a sudden the rug got pulled out from under us. And then what followed was he kept working for companies that closed down. It was crazy how it happened. He was in
Right.
not a great industry, but so I was like, this young mum. And then eventually we had 3 kids, Erin, Luke, and Natalie. It's actually my eldest daughter's birthday today. And, we had 3 kids. We had this big mortgage. And I was like struggling with anxiety because having grown up in a family of 7 kids, Catholic, Irish, Italian family, right? You can imagine. And I was a self-aware kid, and I feel like a lot of the clients that I meet are also that way, like they're very highly tuned in to other people. And when you're
Yeah.
very self-aware, you can doubt yourself a lot. So I had a lot of self-doubt and insecurity and anxiety. And then one day I just was searching. I grew up Catholic. I always believed in God, but I was like searching, going, God, why can't I hear from you? Like, I believe you're there. And one day I went back to church and I was in, worship in church, and I got this vision in my head, and it was a vision of a rope. It was just one rope. And on one
Right.
end of the rope was the word control, and on the other end of the rope was the word anxiety. And I just, in that moment, realized that they were intrinsically linked together, control and anxiety. And so
Oh.
I just heard what I believe is God just say to me, you'll get used to me talking about it like this, but just say to me, drop the rope. And I was like, I don't want to drop the rope. Like, I like being in control. And then, but I'm
Right.
so desperate. I was so
Yes.
desperate, Matthew. Like, we didn't have money for, like, I get emotional even now thinking about it because we were like feeding our kids macaroni and cheese, and we were like not knowing how we are going to pay our bills. And because my husband's income dropped and I just had baby after the first one. And
Right.
anyway, eventually I just went, I have to do this. I just have to drop the rope. I have to drop control. And I look back now and I go, how many times have I dropped the rope over these years that had to surrender? And what happened was I just experienced this peace that I can only say was beyond me. And after that, you kind of want to pick the rope back up again. You want to pick up control again because you're so used to operating like that. So this has been a storyline, I guess, over my life and what I teach people too, because what happened when I did let go of control and experience this peace was I started to have visions and dreams about business and ideas. And I started to really tap into that higher state, which I believe like God, but science has even proven that our pineal gland connects us with a higher consciousness. So it was a very profound experience for me because I couldn't have manufactured that piece myself, even all the personal development that I'd done, and I guess that started back earlier on, right from when I was very young.
Wow, that's quite a journey. So I'll take a step back. You're just about to have kids. You had your kid. You went through postnatal depression. You've got this. So you're at a place in your life. You've had a vision of this control and anxiety, which I love that analogy, by the way, because that resonates. Because people that have control have also got the anxiety, right? It's the same rope. And I love that thought process. And so letting go gave you a relief or a different way of thinking. I love that. That's so good and very profound. So now you're sitting at this moment and you've got these entrepreneurial creativity, visions, these things going on. Where do we go from here? What happened?
Well, I'll just take a little step back briefly because I think this is important to share, because one of the things that was always driving me was this desire to overcome. And when I was 3, a couple of things happened. Are you there? I think you've cut out. Oh, you're there.
Cut
So
that
good.
out.
When I was 3,
Sorry, edit.
okay. So I'll take a step back and just share a couple of things that I think defines this whole journey for me in my life. When I was 3, my parents found out I was blind in one eye, and I had like these big thick glasses with a patch on my good eye, which actually made me fall over a lot because I could not see out of my bad eye. I still can't. I have less than 5% vision. So that happened. And then my nana used to mind me. And so she was actually an Avon lady. And she used to take me, because mum had 5 kids under 5 and I was number 3. She used to take me around to see all these old ladies and they'd give me chocolate cake. I look back now and I go, oh my gosh. And I feel like this is a clue for people. The things that happen when you're a kid are clues for where you're going to go. I used to go around with Nana and she'd sell Avon and have all the little lipstick samples and everything. And then when I was 12, I started reading books about neuroscience and listening to, now you might be,
Wow, at 12 years old, you're starting to 12 years old.
my siblings
Wow.
were watching the Brady Bunch. I was reading books about neuroscience. And like, I mean, my mum was an academic. She was amazing, but my family were pretty academic. I didn't think of myself as super academic, but I just loved learning. I'd started reading books about neuroscience. I remember reading psycho-cybernetics and other neuroscience textbooks. I really didn't understand what I was reading. And then I started listening to Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, all the old school guys. I still love all the old school guys, what they taught. Zig Ziglar was amazing, teaching about sales and motivation and psychology.
Yeah.
Fed myself this stuff from a young age. Fast forward, my early 30s, I've got these kids, and my mum was a teacher, my dad was a public servant. So I didn't grow up in a family of entrepreneurs at all. I
Right.
feel like lots of us have been trained to this 9 to 5 employee mentality. And I was thinking like that, but I was bucking the grain because I'm the only one in my family who wanted to start a business and I was determined. So after I had my first child, I actually joined Party Plan Company and got my grassroots trial by fire, standing in front of a room of women who don't want to be there and trying to sell children's clothes. Was a fantastic grounding. And I was very, very lucky that I ended up in a company called Billy Cart, which was Australian.
So let's just dive into that because that's a really interesting learning experience, right? So you got into events, selling via events, or you started an event business, just so I understand.
I started creating parties.
And selling at events, right? So you're attracting a group of ladies
Yep,
or clientele,
yep.
and then you get them in
And
this room, and you then got to sell to them in this
yeah,
group environment.
yeah.
Wow.
And can I
Okay.
tell you, I am an extrovert, right? I'm a people person, but I was very shy. When the first time I had to speak in, my best girlfriend said she'd have a party for me. And I was in her bathroom throwing up with nerves. Like I was terrified and it took me ages. And this is something I teach people because people look at people who have been successful or created 7 figures and they think, I can't be like that or they're different to me. But literally, it was grit, practice, learning the skills. And I feel like, manifesting, there's nothing wrong with, I believe in the power of words. I believe in the power of your mind. Absolutely. And at the same time, people have to learn skill sets. Like you have an amazing skill set with marketing and messaging. You've built that, you've watered it, so you're really good at it. And I feel like this is something that people don't understand is that they think they're going to buy this copy and paste script and it's going to be the magic bullet to get 7 figures. And it's actually a process. So, yeah, I guess I'm saying in that stage of my life, no one was giving me permission. I had to
Right.
give myself permission. And I feel like that was a key piece because mum and dad, like dad used to say, oh, salespeople are sharks. And actually, my dad was a real people person. So,
Did he call you a shark after that?
well, All I know is that I loved it and I started
Yeah.
making money and I got trips overseas and we replaced our lounge that had baby vomit all over it and we started to be able to pay the mortgage and
This was a big shifting moment or a defining moment in your life, right? It's like
yeah,
you've got out and taken control of your life at a time where you felt you'd lost control, and you're putting yourself out there in front of people, and regardless of throwing up in a toilet, you still got out there, put yourself together, got in front of people, did it again and again and again, got better and better and better at it, and then built yourself this a way out of the place that you were in, right? Like, I
yeah,
think for a lot of people, this is an ingredient that, and it's not something that you intrinsically had to do to make yourself move forward, right? It wasn't like you were born in this entrepreneurial family. You didn't have a silver spoon in your mouth. You didn't have all these flashy things going on. You just did a thing and kept doing that thing, which is such a huge mindset shift, right? It's like, I've got to do this thing and I'm going to keep doing it until I get this thing right. And you
wow.
did, right?
Yeah, you really articulated that so beautifully. I can see why people come to you for messaging. I think it was what was intrinsic in me was the desire to overcome and to have freedom and choice. That drove me because I had a public service job. I was doing well in that. I was training talented athletes. So I was along that path, but I just wanted my own business. And so I say this to people like, if it's in you, it's in you, and you're meant to do it. And yeah, when you say that, it makes me feel emotional, Matthew, because you're right. Like, I did keep doing the determination. My dad, his name was Joe, he used to say, never quit. And I think that stuck in my mind. I just never quit. But it was hard and it's been hard many times. And I think that's what a lot of people don't see when they see people succeeding. And that's why I feel like people need to be real. Like I'm really real with people about what's going on. What really drove me was love because I wanted to not only feed my kids, I wanted to give them a better life. I wanted to go on holidays with them. I wanted to connect with them because we didn't have many holidays when we were kids. So that was what really drove me. And that's what still drives me to this.
Yeah. And then that's so powerful. I feel you've put something in place in your life to drive you and motivate you every day. A lot of people I speak to in the world of entrepreneurship, they hope so much to do the thing, but they don't put in place the driver. Like your kids are a great driver, or the fear of going backwards, or maybe ending up like your parents. Like these are big drivers. And I found that if you strengthen them in your life and you keep them motivating you every day, the grit that you build out of that is super important. Failure is expected, right, in business. You got to fail to succeed.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. A lot of people just want this easy, quick fix, copy and paste, like you said, and then they think they're going to have the dream life because they see the dude with the Ferrari on the interwebs, right? And he's made all this money and probably lying to them anyway. If you don't have that type of passion, commitment, and determination, then failure is inevitable. And I don't think a lot of people want to take that on board because they're afraid of that. They're afraid of, hey, I've actually got to put some work into this. That's
Yeah.
not what that guy on the internet was telling me. Maybe I should go listen to him. But it doesn't work like that. I've been in business for many, many years and I've listened to lots of rubbish and I've been caught up in that trap of chasing shiny objects and stuff. And the story that you're telling right now is such a powerful, resonating story that if you want to have success in business, you have to keep doing the thing. That's the only way you're going to break through.
That's
I
true.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about, so you've built this way for you to grow your business. At some point, you were reading these neuroscience books and a neurostrategy type of thing evolved because you now got a brand and a business around that. And then what were the early stages of that and how did that come?
Yeah. Well, I studied business, I studied neuroscience, I studied whole brain, as I mentioned, became accredited in that. And I studied coaching and I started to coach and consult. It led into coaching and consulting. And I realized that what I was teaching people about sales wasn't something they were teaching in corporates. They'd gone through sales training that was very standard, not very deep, not much mastery. And so the neuroscience, I started to apply it to sales, particularly sales training and leadership consulting, and
Wow.
helped people to understand a number of things. Firstly, how people buy and how different people process information differently, which is why you can't have one size fits all. The different four doorways of your brain. An analytical buyer is going to buy by fact first, whereas a creative is going to want to explore ideas, which is why you
Yeah.
can't have a standard script because it doesn't work if you're selling to a creative. And so the nuances, I guess, of understanding neuroscience in sales, in also in leadership and in strategy. And so I started to apply it in my own life as well, just as a mum, being like high creative, high emotional. I was very focused, more in that sort of upper left part of the brain. But I struggled to be organized, and I realized I didn't like chaos, but it felt chaotic. And I think this is one key that I found over and over again is fantastic, is that understanding how to compartmentalize and use that. So I learned all those tools. And I think one of the biggest things was the personal side, the inner game, because you said it, Matthew, like you have failure, but how do you respond to failure? And so when a lot of people learn about like marketing or selling, they don't recognize, or they may recognize it and be aware of it, but they might go, I know I'm sabotaging myself. And a lot of high performers recognize that. Or they might go, I feel really discouraged or disappointed, but what do you do next? And so
Yeah.
this is part of the rewiring part, you're cutting through those neural pathways and building new muscles to develop that mental strength. And also, it's the brain part, but it's the neck down because, and this is something I didn't learn till later about somatic work. So I was great at helping people.
Look, what does that mean?
So, somatic work is listening to your body and your nervous system. And so, for example, if you're sitting on a sales call or you do events, if you're presenting,
Yep.
you're so in your own head, like you're from the face back, you're thinking about your own self.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not connecting with the audience. But if you're
Ah,
calm and at peace and you have congruency and confidence in how you're speaking, you impart and connect with the audience in a different way. So the somatic work is amazing because over my life, I have had periods where I've slipped back into anxiety because I was trained. Like my mother came from a long line of warriors. I mean, we had European background, like she was the queen of worry. And so, understandably so.
yeah.
But, you have to retrain yourself to learn how to think a different way. But the body work is amazing because even just simply breathing, like I did not appreciate the value of breathing like I do
Yeah.
now, and how it slows your nervous system down, helps you think clearly, helps you focus. So, yeah, I guess it was overall that work and always learning. I mean, I took myself to every single, you name it, Tony Robbins, this, that, the other, read every book. Like, I've been a lifelong learner, and I think that's been part of the journey of building out these models and then
Good.
implementing it with clients, real life experience, right? Clients teach
But
you a lot.
we'll talk about clients in a minute. Let's talk a little bit, take a little bit of a shift back. So I'm trying to, there's this neuro understanding yourself, your neurobiology. Like I love that, being aware of yourself. And you hit the nail on the head, right? From the front backwards to your own brain, there's no connection, right? To be able to connect, whether you're on a sales call or selling in an event. And being in the event space for so long, I see people doing this a lot, whereby they get so caught up, worried about the silence, that all they're doing is
Yeah.
telling people and telling people because they get this thing happening inside of them. Whereas if they just were to slow down, and this is one of the things I always suggest to them, is to calm it down and connect with the audience. And the only way you're going to do that is, being in that state. I love that because it's so critical, right? It is super important. If you want to sell to people, if you want to connect with people, you have to be in a calmer state. Oh, wow. That's so powerful. I love that. And so in this whole process that you have, tell me, is it a step-by-step process that you have? How does your process work for people?
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
The first piece, well, we have two different approaches. One is we go into companies and work with boards and leaders, CEOs, and help. That's a more customized consulting kind of process where we first diagnose. So we audit what's going on with their business, with their leadership, with
Yeah,
energy, with their niche. You said something really powerful just then, Matthew, about connecting. And I think this is one of the things that I love to do in this part of the process, the niche part, because a lot of people, you said it earlier, what was the words that you used? Certainty, niche certainty.
avatar certainty. Yeah,
Certainty. And the vagueness around the niche, our brain moves towards, like we can have a Navy SEAL sniper focus if we know what we want. And that's such a key to flow and seven figures. Guess we diagnose the niche and we help people really unpack, like, are you actually scared to work with that person that you admire and you want to partner with? What's going on for you under the belly? And also help them understand, like, which thinking styles do you prefer to work with? Like, I know I work really well with highly driven, frustrated, focused performers, but they're usually creative and they're usually emotionally intelligent. I don't enjoy working with people who want to go really slow, step by step, and they're scared. That's not my market.
how
And
specific is that? That
y-
is so super specific,
yeah,
right?
the specificity, that's such a hard word to say, but that is, I reckon that's probably one of the key things that we drill down. It's like being like a surgeon drilling down, right? And so we
Yeah,
do the diagnostics first around niche and get people super clear about their niche. And we don't just do the usual stuff. We go
yeah,
deep, and then we look at their offer, and we have 12 data points which are proven to build out a high ticket offer. And what we do is we use a whole lot of different data to measure what will give them that uniqueness, what will make their offer be high ticket. And this is a little bit where the spiritual part comes in because, for example, we've had a lot of clients that have really, I call it, an anointing, which is a bit of a Christianese word, but basically everyone has a gifting. And an anointing is when everything flows. And I
mm,
realized over the years, I'm like, oh, somebody said to me, got an anointing for sales. And I looked back and I went, oh, I never thought of it that way. But when I work with clients, if they were prepared to do the work, their sales would go really fast. And so
yeah.
you probably have an anointing for marketing or messaging. So your anointing can be a spiritual gift, like healing, for example, or teaching or prophetic, where you can see ahead in the market. I'll speak to that in a minute. Or it can be just a really killer skill set that you're amazing. So we incorporate that into the offer and then we look at their sales, how they feel in the process of selling, and we teach them whole brain selling. We also have a few programs around sales mindset as well. So then we take them basically from this point of knowing they're usually experts and have experience. They have mastery in something, but
Yeah,
what happens is the personal journey is so profound that they have the
yeah.
moments, and often people have healing. I had a lady on a call who was actually just there we were doing a visualization, and she'd had a
Mm.
brain injury. She was a client. And at the end of it, she goes, I just feel like my brain just completely healed of this issue that she'd had with trying to be able to focus and concentrate. So there's another dimension that happens. So that's part of the process.
I want to stop on that for a minute because I think that is super powerful to highlight. Is that change or that shift, that transformation that that lady had, was the release, maybe from what I'm thinking, is the release of overwhelm, right? Because so many people get caught up in the thought of, am I serving the right person? Is this person going to, who's going to pay for, like that imposter syndrome and
Yeah,
stuff that goes around in the heads that can cause people to go around in circles for years sometimes, right?
exactly.
And so what you've done there and what I love about your system is that you've created this crystal clarity, which has allowed her to feel so good about the direction that she's going now. And that is a very profound thing to happen. And when that happens with people, when it happens to an entrepreneur, and they get that crystal clarity, everything changes, right?
Yeah,
Because now you have a pathway forward that just, it's a game changer. I just wanted to highlight that because I think that is a super critical component that a lot of people miss out on, is if you can get crystal clear on that, your messaging and who you want to serve, everything changes. And
yeah,
like I said before, it goes from wasting money to making money, right?
exactly. And that lack of clarity, Matthew, like when I look back and I think all the years where I didn't have money and I wanted to get a coach, and then I just kept putting myself out there and taking a risk and investing when I couldn't afford it, but just stretching myself. I always say how you buy is how you sell. And the money beliefs, which was a big thing for me to overcome because we were very middle class, like we weren't poor, but the money beliefs of being able to create a seven-figure business, no one in my family had done that. And so I think that we do a lot of work around money beliefs as well, because if you think that person will and won't
Mm,
buy, that, like you
mm,
said, the overthinking and the overwhelm, you can waste years reworking your offer, reworking your messaging. And we see that's why all these clickbait stuff, it works because people are looking for an answer, but they're actually looking in all the wrong places, right? But I think to your point about certainty, something happens at a very deep level where you know. And, there's a scripture that says, be still and know that I'm God. And for me, this was also something I only learned probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I started to learn how to pace slower, how to slow down, and you mentioned it. And I get out in nature a lot, and I've studied whales, and I get out in the valley behind where I live, and the kookaburras come and sit right next to me in the tree. And I feel like we're not present. And when you become present, you get clarity. And when you slow your brain down, you get clarity. I often say if my clients say to me, I don't know, if I ask them a question, they say, I don't know. I
yeah,
stole this from Dr. Phil, but I say, I know you don't know, but if you did know, what would it be? And I think it was Dr. Phil I stole it from. I hope it was Dr. Phil because I always quote him. But the thing is, human beings are amazing and we know what to do. We do know. It's just that we're scared that we won't get it.
yeah,
There's doubt and
yeah,
uncertainty about the future. And so you start
yeah.
to remove that doubt because people get clarity, then they go for it, and then they make money.
That's right. So good. I love that. So tell me about, you built your own business. You're a very successful entrepreneur. Talk to me about where this mindset shifting kind of happened for you in creating your businesses, your first business or your second business or
Well,
whatever.
well, when I moved into consulting, then the next thing we actually moved away and we found a distributor of sportswear. So we started a sportswear distributorship business. And again, it was from a place of need because we moved away. I actually had this instinct, or call it God, call it instinct, but I felt like I was meant to resign from the party plant company. This is way back. And it didn't make any sense because I was making money. I had all these leaders, blah, blah, blah. But 3 or 4 months later, the company actually closed down and I had resigned and
Wow.
closed off all my orders, got my team sorted. And we moved away. My husband got a promotion. We moved away and now I was like little kids. My youngest was 2. And we were like, what are we going to do? Because we still needed to earn money. And the
Yep.
company he worked for again, we're making some changes. So we're a bit like stuck again. I think when I think about the mindset, it's been a number of times that I've had to reinvent
Yep.
myself. And so we started that distributorship and we did that for a few years and sold that back to the manufacturer once we'd got the clients. And I guess when I think about the mindset piece, I ended up in a corporate role. That was pretty cool. I was a national sales director in a direct selling company. And what I learned in that was amazing about leadership and about, how I was able to execute with all the teams that I had around me. But it was also that company went into chapter 11 and I lost my job. Well, all of us lost our jobs and I was back down here again, right? So I spent a year like back in the valley. So,
Wow.
it hasn't been like all like this. It's been
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
And the valleys are where you
Up
actually
and down.
get the
Yes.
revelation and the innovation and the drive. to overcome, I would say that's probably what I've learned is whenever I've had a setback, like I was saying to you, we had a rough year personally last year with health stuff with our kids and just some stuff that happened. I kind of had to step back again. And I think what's happened over the years is I've always seen ahead what's going to happen in the market. So I'm moving towards it. And I think the other piece that I would say is really key is that when you're a pioneer and when you're an entrepreneur, you know things that other people don't know, but you've got no one next to you. You're ahead of the pack. So you don't have anyone saying, that's a brilliant idea, or there's no one who gets it. And so it's very isolating and lonely. And I think dealing with that loneliness, especially if you're an extrovert, the way I overcame that was always finding great coaches to work with and mentors to work with and investing. And every time I did, I think the thing is it's all about trusting yourself. So it's not even about, yes, you want to choose wisely with whoever mentors or does your marketing or whatever. But I think the biggest thing is we teach people how to trust themselves. And that's what I had to learn. And I'm still learning it.
Yeah. It's so good. I love that. So, what would be the mindset shift? Like, what are the mindset things that you have? Because that was really the key question. If you could give me maybe 3 key mindset things to share with the audience that have
Sure.
helped you, that would be really great.
Yeah. So I would say number one is being still, learning to be still. So we have got Mindset Pack. We've got an inner game diagnostic, and we really work on the mindset all the way through all of our work.
Interested in what you got going. I want to know you personally.
My first thing is breathing, like learning to breathe. There's so many breathing techniques you can do to be still.
Talk me through one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So just loosen up your shoulders and you can close your eyes if you want to. And I want you to take a big deep breath in, and we're going to breathe in for 6. So breathing in deeply for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No.
Sorry. Do it again because edit that.
Okay. So loosen your shoulders up, and I want you to notice just your feet, feeling grounded. Just be aware of your feet. Notice the soles of your feet. Notice being grounded. And I want you to just take a deep breath in for 6. So I'll count you in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the pause. And when you breathe out, I want you to go like try and do it for 10 or 12. So breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the pause. Quiet. Breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now just let it all out.
So everything has to come out.
Yeah, and you also can do a lot of language stuff around it. But when you do that, like for most people who are overthinking, you might have to do it 6 times to try and get yourself to calm down. And then you might have to practice it every day because you're so used to being, So that's the first thing that's just a really fast way to activate your parasympathetic.
So during a day, that would calm you down, right? Like this, when you got a lot of that overthinking happening.
It's amazing.
Wow. So let's walk us through it again. So you breathe in, counting up to 6.
Yep.
You breathe, you pause.
Yep.
Notice that pause.
Yep.
Breathe out for how many is?
Well, I do 12.
One of it is that you're counting as you're getting, so you're not thinking about other stuff. You're counting on the numbers and you're breathing out all the way until you've got probably no air, maybe 12 to 14, something like that.
Yep.
And then what?
And then, so you're doing that until you start to notice that your brain starts to rewire, right? So slow down. Now, the other thing that I do, and they're not necessarily in this order, is I go out in nature. Nature is amazing. Nature teaches you everything. I go out to this rock pool out at Cronulla Beach in Australia, and I just watch the waves, and I get in this rock pool and I feel like I'm swimming in golden oil. Like I just feel the water. because we forget to feel sensory. We're so busy thinking. So anything sensory that you can do that feels like you're in flow. Some people it's painting, some people it's music. For me, it's massive. Nature.
Yeah.
For me, worship, like when I'm in church and I'm in worship, that's where I get all my visions and dreams.
Yeah.
Obviously, meditation's great. So doing that, just get the body to, down regulate is key.
What I think about that when you say that, I'm like, I'm just too busy to go out in nature. And
Oh,
I
it's
think a lot of people have that, right? We're so like busy doing the thing all the time that what you're saying makes sense. What would you say to entrepreneurs that are just like, I'm too busy to do that?
I was exactly the same as you, exactly the same. I'm like, I don't have time for that. But I'm like, well, how's this working for you? You're burning out, So that's why I studied flow science. And there's actually a cycle that gets us in and out of flow. And
Yeah.
they say that you can go up to 2 hours of concentrated time. Now, for someone like when I started learning about flow science and studying neurobiology, I couldn't even concentrate for like 10 minutes. I was so used to multitasking, which is not good. And most of us do this because we're scrolling all the time. They've proven by science that it's actually less effective to work more hours than it is to work less hours in concentrated state of flow. So that kind of sold me on it because I'm like, oh, work less, get more result. So one of the things we do is teach people how to get into that flow state. So 2 hours max. But if you've got little kids and you're a mum or a dad, you might only have 15 minutes to do something. So
Mm.
focus on that one thing. Train your brain to focus, highly focus, like a Navy SEAL on one thing. Get it done. If you can't get it done, and it's actually good to leave before you're fully in flow, you're better off doing something for an hour. And if you're still in a bit of flow, you're better off actually stopping and coming back to it. And believe it or
Right.
not, staring at a blank wall and being bored is actually good for recovery. They call it active recovery. So when you
So
get
good.
better at active recovery, you start to block your time. And then the other thing we teach with that is duplicating. So one thing, duplicating it. And that's where I love AI because AI just allows you to go with speed and get stuff done that you couldn't do before.
That can be a problem for people
True.
because that's when tech overwhelm starts setting in. And I know I've experienced that in our business and people that we're working with. As soon as you start saying AI, everyone gets this idea of AI, a great tool. There's two chains of thought. One is it's the fear message that's going on, going to destroy the world. On the other side, it's so great. But in the middle, you've got entrepreneurs that have built their businesses in a certain way and
Yeah,
everything's working. And now they put AI into the
I
mix. And
know.
so they go, oh my God, like,
It
is
is
this too much? Right?
overwhelming. Yeah, I think it's overwhelming for all of us, but I've learnt to embrace it. I'm working with someone who's been learning a lot about it and a service delivery background, and that's helped me, but I think it can be really fun. You also need to be highly focused on what you're spending your time on because somebody sent me something about like you can create videos of yourself on TikTok or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Attention, but my CEOs are not looking at that. So you have to be
Exactly.
very targeted in what you do inside of AI.
So I like to look at it like this. This is how my framing has worked for me, is that AI is only a distraction until you have a process. If you have a process, you look at the pieces in that process where you can optimize with AI. So many people I see are just like, that's like a little toy, right? They're getting distracted by this little
Right.
thing. And Brian Dice actually brought me onto this idea, and I love how he says it's like, if you want to scale, have the process. The automation goes in the process once you know how you're going to make money, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it is amazing to help you develop processes. Like our diagnostics, I would have had to learn a lot more tech to be able to create the diagnostics that we've got. But now I've used a number of different AI systems to create that. That's now allowed me. I think what it does is it allows you to pull out of yourself the things that you've been wanting to do for a long time, writing books, whatever. But you do need to be very directed and disciplined in how you use it. I agree. Yeah, that's a great point about the process too.
So good. Love it. So you have this methodology and framework called Neuro Resonance. We've kind of dived quite a bit into it. Let's go a step back. Why is what you do so important and so powerful? Let's dive into that.
I feel like the first piece is identity and how people begin to have great confidence in themselves. And it
Right.
changes their life and it changes their family's life when they recognize what they can do. That's why I do it, helping them have freedom, helping them to create money and not be in fear. I hate lack. I think because we went through so much, I'm like a bulldog about this, helping, and I can see people can do it. So that's the first piece. I think the personal journey, helping people have peace, not have
Yeah.
anxiety,
Yeah.
helping them to recognize their value and be able to charge what they're worth and not be slaves to their business, helping them to be more connected, to enjoy working with their clients, have clients they love, and
Yeah.
fully express themselves. I think that's what drives me with helping people, just helping them have that freedom and how I see people. I'm so proud of them, what they achieve. It's amazing what people can achieve, but they need to be in the right environment. I guess I created what I didn't have. And I have had
Yeah.
some great mentors too that have really helped me.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people haven't had a lot of encouragement or someone speaking into their life to see in them what they can't see in themselves. I often say, I'll believe in you until you can believe in yourself. I think the prophetic gifting of being able to recognize what they can't see and recognize opportunities that they haven't seen or recognize the invisible parts of them. And then they go, oh, that's what I feel like is powerful about it. It's the people.
So good.
I love my clients. They're amazing.
So good. I love that. That sounds like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. That's a huge transformational shift that anyone would go through. I feel that's super powerful. Tell me about some of the journeys your clients have been on with you through this process,
Yeah.
from where they've come to being going.
Yeah. Well, one of my clients, it was a couple actually that came on one of our programs, and they were in a brick and mortar business. They had like interior design products and they were struggling because of COVID. And they came to me and they hadn't quite decided to close it down, but they were thinking about it. They have 4 kids. They're in the States, beautiful couple in their 40s. And through the process of working with them, they came to the conclusion they needed to close that business. So they did that. And then they had to start from scratch. And she had an interior design background. So we worked with them. And the thing that was interesting is that funnily enough, I had a dream about an oil tanker. And the next morning, I was on a call with him and found out he was a team leader of an oil rig. Can you believe it? And anyway,
Wow.
so that happens all the time, those sort of things. But they came and they were like so beautiful, this couple. And he went through this journey of personal confidence and transformation. And she went through this journey of getting clear about what her value was and ended up
Right.
creating a 100K consulting gig. So that was really cool. And now they are
Wow.
doing a lot of renovation stuff. And I just watched her evolve, both of them evolve really. So that was a cool one. We had another client who had a makeup academy. She already had experience coaching and training. And she came to me and she was struggling. And she got on we did one diagnostic, one call, and she went away and sold $52,000 the next week. Like,
Wow.
it's fast. When people are ready, it's like off they go. So that was
Yeah.
cool. There's so many stories over the years. We had a client that was an executive and she was incredibly gifted, senior. And I met her, I did profiling with the team and we did some one on one stuff with her. And she was like, I'm terrified of interviews. And yeah, she was at a very high level role. And I've met a lot of people in corporates that are like this, right? They're so amazing, but they're in toxic environments sometimes and they just lose their
Mm.
confidence. And I've experienced that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just said to me, I feel like I'm not invisible anymore after we worked with her. And
Wow.
she got 2 promotions in the next 12 months and then a third one another year later, and, like, her income doubled. So, I think if
So good.
someone's ready and hungry,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're ready to do that thing and you're hungry for success, those are the best clients to work with, right? People that are like, I know I've got to do this thing, What do I have to do to make this happen?
Yeah.
And that's a very good place to be in, because then you, as the consultant, can do your magic, right? Because you know your system works. It's worked many, many times.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you say, well, how much effort did you put in? How long have you stuck with this? Have you been following the system? Have you been doing the exact steps? And most of the time, people that say that stuff went a week into it, or 2 weeks, maybe a couple of months, and they're like, oh, this is too hard. And
Yeah.
then they change direction again, right?
Yeah.
And this is a big key message, that if you want to have success working with a consultant like yourself, it's about being, number one, committed, following the system, and then you as the listening to the support system, right? Listening to the person that is giving that information, because then that's when results happen.
For sure. For sure. The ownership and the maturity to take ownership is a big thing, isn't it? Just like you said, that grit, that people have built grit. So that's one of the reasons why I like doing diagnostics, because we can see where people are at, and we can go, you know what, this program isn't a good fit for you right now, but you could go on this one, not
Yeah,
invest as much and build up your skill set, because I don't want to have people come and invest money in me unless they're going to multiply it. So I'd rather help them know where they're at first, and then be really true to myself and true to them in serving them instead of
yes,
just selling to them. Because, you know, if you're good at
yeah,
selling, you can sell. But, you know, you want to see people grow. You want to see people
that's so
succeed
powerful.
financially.
What you just said there is something that I've used in my business. Our first consulting business was in real estate. We passed more than 25 million. We're still growing in that business.
Wow.
But one of the key things that allowed us to break free or grow was this idea that you exactly just said there. Was a big shift in our business, was who are you serving
Yeah.
and who are you not serving. So many people I see in the coaching consulting space want to serve everybody,
Yeah.
and you can't. You serve everybody. And I love, because earlier on you were talking about this, you were so specific about your who you serve, right? That specificity makes a huge impact, because you can charge more and you get a better quality fit, right? Everybody's working together in that, and you're all working together. I speak to so many people because we help people grow their businesses, and the same problem I see over and over again is people's words that they're using, or messaging is broad. They
Mm.
know who they want to serve, but it's not clear enough. One of the biggest shifts, if it's okay, I would like to share this because I think it's useful for the audience,
I'd love to hear what you have to say.
is we spent, in the beginning when I first started that business, we were spending a lot of money on advertising, and it was burning us. And we got these agencies involved, and we got stung by agencies, and I was so frustrated because I knew that we had something good. And one of the things in hindsight is that we weren't clear on our message. And so I took a step back and started building out a framework for getting crystal clear on the message. And we started running these tests in ads. And we did a whole lot of multivariate testing and really getting clarity on the messaging. And what was super exciting or very interesting is that when I went into this business, my context of helping people was to get them financially free. And I was fixed on this idea. And I have this thing about talking about word engineering, and this is how important one word can be in the whole key of your message, is that I was trying to promote people in the real estate business on having financial freedom, but that's not what they wanted.
Mm.
What people wanted, and what I noticed, especially in my niche, was they wanted to retire early.
Mm.
And in that context, we then built out an entire business that just blossomed because we started understanding just one different word.
Mm.
And from there, we started bringing in clients. And then it was like, whoa, we got all these people that we can serve. And we kind of narrowed them down into three spaces. And this niche or this avatar, and they were great. But I found that this avatar was not serving, I wasn't able to serve them efficiently and effectively. And they were costing me time and energy, in that I had to keep answering questions that weren't, it wasn't, it was my time that was being sucked up. So we decided to shut them off. Not out of spite or anything. It's just that we made that business decision that we were only going to serve these two avatars. And because of that, the messaging and that decision to who we serve and who we don't, that's grew our business exponentially over quite a few years. And that was the big difference. So when you said that and when you were so specific about who you serve, I think that's a super important message to be sharing with people.
I love what you just said, Matthew. I feel like I have this sense about you that you pull the words out of people, you distill into a very clear, because you've already done it in this call when you said, the avatar certainty. Like I said it in 5 words, you said it in 2 and nailed it. And so I would say that sounds like something that you're very gifted in, pulling out of people, like moving all the noise out and just going, this is it. I would even say it's an anointing, like probably flows for you and comes easily for you, especially after all these years of cultivating that and working with people. And it's just so nice to talk and be around people that have that heart to really serve people too, because we know that there's a lot of people out there that they sell the dream and people spend, and I met so many people spent so much money, and I've done it myself in the past. But I think the heart behind it, people can read, if they have any discernment. And it sounds like you do. I think that drawing the line in the sand, like that for me has happened multiple times. And I guess that it's that decision, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to undercharge. I'm not going to overwork. I'm not going to work with people that pull on me, pull on my energy, pull my energy down. The line in the sand is that decision, is that commitment. Yeah. And you have that battle, don't you? Because you kind of want to go back to what you know. And I think this recalibration that I feel like a lot of people are going through because of AI changing everything in the market,
Yeah.
it is stages that you go through, isn't it? Have you found that? Like that
Yeah.
you kind of go through this stage and then you're like, okay, I'm saying no to that.
100%. It's about, for me, focus, right? When you talk about flow, focus is, for me, the number one ingredient for wealth. And so being crystal clear on the direction that you're heading and sticking with that. And as the market shifts, for me, it's always been knowing that there's a fundamental principle in humans that will never change. The psychology will never change, no matter what technology is doing. And if you stick with those in your business and knowing that you're serving people based on those fundamental psychological principles, your business is always going to thrive. It's the reason why Amazon has always been successful for years and years, even with AI, because they've nailed the core psychology of what they're trying to do with their avatar. I
Yeah.
think that's super important.
Yeah. That's a great point.
So this has been an amazing conversation. I could sit here speaking for hours with you because I love this stuff so much. Now,
Next week, yes.
what I would like to do is jump ahead here because we've spent a
Oh,
fair bit of time talking today. Tell me, how do people get hold of you if they want to know more, work further with you?
yep. So they can just go to louisetaylorglobal.com and they can do the clarity. We've got a clarity scan, which basically it's an initial diagnostic assessment and it covers energy sales offer. It's more of a very light version, but it does help them have a dashboard to see how they're doing in those areas. And then what they get is instant sort of dopamine shifting actions based on customized to their answers. So that's the first step, which is really,
Could you just repeat that?
yeah,
Got that?
it's just louisetaylorglobal.com.
LouiseTaylorGlobal.com. Then show
Yeah.
notes, guys.
Yeah, and they can also just book a call if they're ready to do something. We still take them through that process because, as I said, we want to make sure we have the right fit of offers for people. But if they're really like ready to go, I know the way I buy is I kind of know who I'm meant to work with, and I just kind of get on a call, and I've already sold before I'm even on the call, usually, because I think when you've got a bit of maturity, you've got a bit of a sense of what you need. And then
Yeah.
we can just have a look at the options for them. Maybe the Founders Lab that we're launching, which is a 6-month program where we customize everything, or it may be that they want some consulting inside of their business with their team or, just their personal brand. So that's how they can get hold of me. I won't give out my phone number because you get all those spam calls, but it's easy to find me on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, I would just go to the website and book a call and we can have a chat.
So good, so good. Really loved and so enjoyed this conversation. I have to say that this is one of the more interesting conversations about avatars and being, building around your brand. And I love this idea of this neuroscience context that you brought into it.
Well, speed, certainty, safety, stillness, and sales mindset. And I guess just taking them speed to market through their offer niche and sales and their inner game.
The Neuro Resonance Method, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
I love that. That is so powerful. Neuro Resonance.
It's fun.
Yeah, so Louise, very cool talking to you.
You
You have an amazing day going forward. Talk
Thank you
again soon.
so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Matthew. It was great fun. I enjoyed it.
All right.